Welcome back to Punk Rock Theologian. We're continuing through the book, and today we've come to the story of Joshua, who I think is possibly the most understated guy in all of Scripture. Joshua is one of the greatest case studies in leadership you can ever find, and we treat him like a footnote. He's just the guy that came after Moses, and Moses is the big deal, and then, oh yeah, there's Joshua. For starters, just imagine being in his shoes. He has to follow up Moses, who was the great leader of Israel that delivered them from slavery, and now Joshua has to take over. And oh, by the way, he's supposed to lead them into the promised land and conquer all of these amazing, big, powerful nations that are currently in there that were so intimidating that it scared the whole nation away 40 years earlier. Joshua has two things going for him. One, he spent a long time with Moses. He got to learn firsthand from him. That's some pretty valuable apprenticeship training there. Two, God has told him that he's going to be with him exactly the same way he was with Moses. And he got to see what it was like for God to be with Moses, and he believes that God is going to be with him too. And so he's able to take some really bold steps. The first one is just getting into the promised land, because there's a massive river in their way. And he doesn't even get to do it like Moses did crossing the Red Sea. All Moses had to do was hold his hand out and the water parted, and then they walked across. God tells Joshua that he has to send the priests and the Ark of the Covenant out into the water, and when they get in the water, it'll dry up and the nation can cross the river. That means he has to make the first move before he can see any evidence that it's going to work. Joshua 3:15, it tells us, "It was the harvest season, and the Jordan was overflowing its banks. But as soon as the feet of the priests who were carrying the ark touched the water at the river's edge, the water above that point began backing up a great distance away at a town called Adam, which is near Zarethan. And the water below that point flowed on to the Dead Sea until the riverbed was dry. Then all the people crossed over near the town of Jericho." Now, I don't know where this town of Adam is, but can you imagine being the people in that town and watching the water suddenly start piling up? But the Israelites see the river go from flood stage to nothing, and they're able to walk across. It's a very public demonstration of God's power. It's showing to the nation of Israel that God is with Joshua just the same way he was with Moses, but it's also showing to all the inhabitants of Canaan that this is a mighty power that's coming against them, that God can dry up a raging river and let his people come across easily. It feels like this should be a real high point for Joshua, and like, all right, we're ready to go and conquer the land. Joshua 5:2 says, "At that time the Lord told Joshua, 'Make flint knives and circumcise the second generation of Israelites.' So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the entire male population of Israel at Gibeoth Ha'araloth," which is a name that means hill of foreskins, which is gross. But can we just take a second and acknowledge Joshua's influential leadership? He's able to convince these people to do it. It's all in one verse. God says to do it, so Joshua did it. Somehow in that, Joshua convinced the entire male population, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to make ourselves super vulnerable right here on the edge of enemy territory. And the people listened to Joshua. That is some amazing leadership. And it's followed up by something equally impressive, because when God gives Joshua a game plan for how to attack the city of Jericho, the biggest, best defended city in the entire land, his strategy makes no sense. You're going to go and walk around it once a day for 7 days. On the 7th day, you'll walk around it 7 times, and then the priest will blow some trumpets. Joshua 6:5 says, "When you hear the priest give one long blast on the ram's horns, have all the people shout as loud as they can. Then the walls of the town will collapse, and the people can charge straight into the town." No one in their right mind would call this a military strategy. But again, the people follow Joshua's leadership when this is what he tells them they're gonna do. And not surprisingly, God is true to his word. Verse 20 almost completely echoes what he said would happen. "When the people heard the sound of the ram's horn, they shouted as loud as they could. Suddenly the walls of Jericho collapsed, and the Israelites charged straight into the town and captured it." This is a crazy thing to happen, but what's even crazier is that archaeologists have dug up the town and found that that's exactly what did happen. We found the walls of Jericho, and we found the rubble where it collapsed. And it's the only instance we've ever found of a city wall that fell down like that, because that's what God said was going to happen. And this is just step one. This is only the first city. Joshua proceeds to lead them throughout the land, conquering one city after another, one king after another, and they're just unstoppable. I've seen skeptics who claim, oh, it was just that earthquakes ravaged the land and the Israelites just kind of came in as scavengers after the fact and picked over things. Personally, I think if I were the people living there, I'd be extra terrified of these outsiders who come in and can somehow make the ground shake and destroy all of your defenses before they come in and conquer you. And that really fits in with Deuteronomy 2:25, where God had promised years earlier, "Beginning today, I will make people throughout the earth terrified of you. When they hear reports about you, they will tremble with dread dread and fear. Yeah, I think that would work if God is using earthquakes to pave the way for the Israelites to come and conquer the land. And this is what Joshua leads them on. Joshua trusted God and followed his instructions even when they didn't seem to make any logical sense. And without fail, God came through. That's the lesson from this. And that's what makes it no different from you and I. We can follow God and do what he tells us, and even if it doesn't make sense, even if we're going, I don't know, how would that even work? Take that step. Move out, whether you can see any evidence yet or not, just like Joshua had to do with crossing the Jordan. Because if you will make a move, God will always meet us there. You and I can trust him just like Joshua did, and maybe he'll lead us to do things just as amazing as he did.